Hello, welcome back to No Hype Beer Reviews. Unless it's your first time, then welcome. Please consider subscribing. If you do subscribe, hit the notification bell, get all the updates. I know some people will be watching live. I know some people will be watching not live. Feel free to comment in either place. Really excited for today's video. Victor actually had this idea, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and talk a little bit about what he does and how this came to be. So, Victor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Victor. I am one of the co-owners of Lion Bines Hop Farm in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. We supply fresh local hops to our surrounding areas. I met Kyle on another podcast, and I thought it would be a great idea to kind of do a guest review so we could kind of discuss a nice hoppy beer and talk about it from a hop farmer perspective and then from just a regular drinking perspective.
That's perfect. No, I was so excited. Yeah. So, like you said, Victor got at me. We did the Fueled by Hops podcast, which was a lot of fun. I actually didn't know anyone at all on that podcast. Like I knew like, Instagram handles and things like that, but I hadn't had a conversation with anyone. And then, definitely some cool people. They're doing good things over at Fueled by Hops. And then, slid into my DMs, as the kids say. And he's, Victor was like, yeah, it's like such a cool idea. I always enjoyed doing collab things. It was just such a unique opportunity to, someone who really, knows about the hop game to do a hoppy beer. We talked about maybe trying to do different altogether beers. I just couldn't find one. And I had some that were tied up in other live streams I was doing. So, I was like, man, I got to think of a hoppy beer. And this was the first one that came into my mind. And and then Victor was like, I haven't had that in a while. I'm like, I haven't had that in a while either. So I just looked at the date. I didn't realize how old this one was, but it'll be fine. But this one's from October 2019.
Oh, mine's from April 2020. So I have a
good.
bit of a fresh one. I mean, it'll be interesting to compare the differences that come from an old one to a new one.
Exactly. Yeah, I was. I got the Tall Boy. I wanted their Sequench Tall Boy, but they were out. So I was like, well, I'm going to buy this beer anyway. I might as well get the Tall Boy, I guess. So the side of it says, our East Coast IPA continually hopped with a slew of Northwest hops throughout the entire boil for a powerful, citrusy hop character in its 6% ABV.
That makes me sad that it's an East Coast IPA made with West Coast hops.
You just took the words right out of my mouth.
Historically, the West Coast, the past 3 decades has just dominated the hop game. But when the United States was founded, New York State, Pennsylvania, all of the Northeast we were the hop capitals of the world. Yeah. And somewhere along the lines that really fell off. And one thing we're trying to do is bring that back.
Nice. Yeah, I'm in New York, and now we can talk about that a little bit later. Like the specifics of where your hop farm is and things like that. But yeah, you're 100% right that the amount of hops we used to grow here, my area too, rye used to be very popular here, and they're trying to bring it back a little bit, do some like rye whiskeys and stuff. I'm hoping to see maybe some more local like rye beers with rye, locally grown rye. That's definitely worth pointing out. And the first thing I noticed too was East Coast IPA, but with West Coast hops. All right. Cool. You want to get into the review part, and then we can keep talking as we review?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Sure. So it's a nice color, and it's you can see through it, which I'm not so used to anymore with all the hazy craze. Right.
The fact that you can see my finger going back and forth. Come on in, Bruno. Sorry, my dog's joining. Come on in, buddy. Hey, Brew. So just for people watching, it's all the lighting why the beers look so different. It happens every time with the different lights and what the camera's picking up. But yeah, it's so interesting. You're right. Like how many of these new school IPAs, and like you kind of almost forget like what IPAs used to look like. But yeah, let's get into the aroma. Let's actually start talking about some hops.
Yeah. I definitely get a lot of citrus coming out of this.
So that's what I wanted to pick your brain about, because I agree with you
A lot of that.
100%. Now they're just saying the word citrus. So like, are you getting like orange? You getting orange and grapefruit? You getting like lemon and lime? Like where are you on the citrus scale?
With me, I'm getting like orange peel, and somewhat grapefruit. You know, it's not that super sweet orange smell, but there's that slight bitterness to it, or almost like a tartness to the scent. That's what I'm getting out of that.
I agree, and yeah, again, it's been a long time since I've had this beer. And for some, maybe it's in the taste more. I kind of remember a grapefruit element, but I'm getting that orange peel for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And even this one being a lot older than yours, it still has a good hop. Like I'm probably getting a little bit more malt sweetness than you are, but it definitely still has a good amount of hop aroma. Which again, I mean, it's what, this is 8 months old. Like an IPA, it's 8 months old. It still has a hop like punch in the face. That's well done.
I think that's probably from that continual hopping.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a late dry hop on a beer, last minute, you get a ton of those aromas, but that's the first thing to fall off.
Yeah.
And because this beer is hopped for 60 continuous minutes, I think that's probably why that hop scent is really kind of sticking with it.
No, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's such a cool process.
I could be just making that up.
What's up?
I could just be making that up.
No, I think that's cool, because there's like, it's like some of these New England style IPAs where it's all at the end, and that's why people are like, you got to drink it fresh and all that. No, for sure. Yeah, let's get into the taste. Cheers. Good idea, Victor.
Cheers.
So yeah, even just like the aroma for me, even with the 8 months on this, it still has a nice hop kick. It's, and although it's been a while, I remember this beer well enough. What you're drinking is definitely hoppier than what I'm drinking, but it still, after 8 months, has a good impact. Now, I kind of, sorry, I'm gonna shut this door just because he left it open when he came in. Let's continue with this citrus thread. Where are you at with citrus in this, tasting it?
I get a lot more grapefruit and like a more bitter citrus in tasting it, and I think that's very common from the hops. And this is such a straightforward IPA. You know, there's no adjuncts, there's no milk sugars, there's no lactose, anything like that to really ramp up the sweetness. So I think that to me makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then it's interesting too. Like you said, it doesn't have lactose. It's not like it's some heavily oated or wheated. So like, I like going back to these beers because, like we were saying, you get so used to drinking these new school IPAs, the mouthfeel is completely different on those versus this. I will say this, for it being 6% and not one of those wheated, oated, lactose beers, has a decent mouthfeel, like all things considered, which is pleasant. I want to, Vanessa Kitty was saying some stuff. I just want to pull this up. I was telling you about this, how you can pull up comments. So Industrial Factory's doing it in terms of the hop stuff. Yeah. And then they're losing their last remaining Shade Tobacco Farms now, she's saying, is getting hit. And she's cheersing us. So hopefully, Vanessa, you're drinking something tasty. If you are, let us know.
Cheers, Vanessa.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm saying that's a pretty cool feature that this StreamYard has, where you can click. Some of my beer tube friends have been messing with some other software, and we haven't quite figured out how to do that, which is such a nice feature. So yeah, definitely, especially do these live streams. It's just, you know, the interaction. I know I can't talk today. So good. Hey, buddy. I was wondering, like, you know, have you ever done like 60, 90 together at the same time, or like in a flight, or like, have you ever done like 60, 90, 120?
Yeah, I've done that parallel before, and from, you know, what I've noticed doing that, it's been a while since I've done it, is the sweetness gets ramped way up each time, because I think, you know, the ABV goes up and there's a lot more malts go into that, and that ramps up. It's much more hopped. You know, it's hopped for the 120s hopped twice as long, but I think to counter that bitterness, I think there's a lot more malts added in. And I think 120 is one of those rare IPAs that people will actually age. You know, and once that's because the ABV on that I think is like 18%. Yeah. And you know, when you cellar that, the hops really do fall off, but you have a really interesting, sweet, malty, high ABV beer that is a lot different than what you got and very different from what you have in 60 Minute. But I think, you know, that shows the range of brewing with those three.
It was my 30th birthday, and a friend of mine threw me a party, and we had a lot of beer there. And that was one of the things they made sure they did was they had, I think it was just 60 and 90 for that. But like at the time, because this was years ago, you know, as we're like getting more and more into craft and understanding. And also I'd like to remind people like that. So that would have been 7 years ago. Craft beer 7 years ago was way different than it is now. But anyway, you know, as we're like, you know, getting into this and trying to learn more about styles and what certain styles should taste like, the different styles there are. But anyway, that was a big revelation for us going from 60 to 90. We're like, wait, 90 has more hops, like hops are added longer, but all of us were just like, wait, it's sweeter. Like, that's so weird. Shouldn't it be more bitter? Because we know, like, this is our infantile understanding of beer at the time. More hops means more bitter, period. Like, there's no explanation other than that. And then when we had the beers, we're like, wait, that's weird. And then, like you said, then you go to 120. I think that's more of a barley wine at that point, you know?
Pretty much.
It was wild, yeah. Now we can keep, you know, revisiting this beer, but I did want you to talk a little bit about, you know, where, you know, you are in the hop industry. 2 years at this point. Is it 2018 you guys got in?
Yep. So this is our third full year in operation. You know, we kind of count it as growing seasons. So we're about halfway into our 2020 growing season, and it takes a few years for your plants to fully mature. So, you know, you get a certain amount of yield each year until they're fully mature. And, you know, this year we're off to the races, and, you know, we're expecting to really ramp up. So, you know, we've been seeing a lot of great growth. Our Cascade plants are exploding right now. So our farmer, so I'm in our sales and marketing, and I work on our finance side as well. And our main farmer, Andrew, has been doing everything he can to keep up with the growth and really just make sure our plants are well taken care of during this time. There's been a few days where they've grown a foot. You know, they can grow a foot in a day.
Wait, you posted something on Instagram recently, right?
Yeah. So we
that was cool.
Charles Darwin was fascinated by the speed at which hops can grow. So I thought it would be interesting to throw some information out there, you know, so that the average beer fan can get a little more about the history of hops.
And again, that's what's cool about doing this collab is, you know, I love it. Actually, I don't think I've ever reviewed this beer. For how much as I love this beer, how much of this I've had over the years. So like, yeah, a hoppy beer to talk to a hop farmer with. Yeah, this is it. Here, a couple more comments. 90 Minute was brewed before 60. I forgot about that. That is true. They did do 90 minutes. I remember that from like the tour I did. Yeah.
I didn't even know that. You know.
Yeah. I toured for one of our anniversaries. We went down there and like we stayed at their inn and like did the all inclusive like everything. And I do kind of remember them talking about that on one of the tours. Dogfish had 60, a classic sippy. Yep. And I haven't had the Holy Cow. I love Alchemist. I mean, Heady, Folk. I missed out on some Heady the other day. They were selling it at a local bottle shop.
Oh, man.
Your farm. Yeah.
You can see our farm. It's we're on Instagram, lionbines_hop farm. We have some great pictures up there. And, you know, we're always trying to keep the content coming through. So we're getting to the point where, you know, in a week or two, maybe a month, we'll have those corridors starting to form that you see in the Pacific Northwest, where it's just walls of hops.
Nice. Now, how much of and some of that stuff is off camera, we'll stay off camera, but what are some things you want to talk about with like from your point of view, the hop business being new, getting into it? I mean, as craft beer is going up, I assume people want hops, they want local hops, they want different hops. You know, so anything and everything you're comfortable talking about. I mean, you just mentioned a very classic hop you're doing, there any other kind of hops, secret projects for hops, anything?
So, with us, we're only able to grow your classic hops. We can't grow anything proprietary, because they're all owned by the Pacific Northwest farms. So unfortunately, you won't see us grow any Citra, any Mosaic, but you'll see, we'll grow a very fresh, very, very local Cascade. We grow Chinook, we grow CTZ, Centennial, and we also grow Nugget. And with those varieties, growing them on the East Coast, you're going to get a slightly different flavor table than you would from the West Coast because our soil's different. Much like in wine, where a big focus is terroir, it factors in with any plant, particularly hops. So if you want to have a truly local beer, you'd have to use local hops because that's the real taste. If you're going to use local barley and a local water table, you got to put the hops in locally as well, and then you really truly do have a local beer.
It's so funny that you mentioned the wine because that's exactly where my mind went. The second you said before you said soil, I'm like, this is where he's going with it. This is the wine. This is the soil thing. Because I've done those wine tours, I don't know, 10 times maybe in my life, but yeah, I've never toured a hop farm and had them talk about that. But it makes the exact same sense. How about breweries that you work with? Are there any that you are already partnered with, or that you just, hey, anyone wants to come, here we go? Like, what does that look like?
So we've worked with a couple locally. We worked with a concept brewery that Eagle River Brewing in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They're working to get their brewing license and get off the ground. We've also worked with Cold Spring Brewing and Inn. That's right in our backyard. They have a really cool brewery where you can actually kayak up to it. They bought fresh hops from us, so we will sell wet hops if we can coordinate it and it's in the right area. But we'll have hyper local fresh hops for sale where they'll have the brew going. We show up with the hops. The brewers will dump it in and it's good to go because the shelf life on those is very, very, very low. So it almost has to be picked and then brewed with. And then we've been in talks with a lot of the local breweries as we get our volume up. You'll be seeing us in a lot more beers. We're developing a lot of relationships locally. We also we're in the local homebrew store, and that's one thing we wanted to make sure that we cater to every brewer, whether you own a large brewery or if you're the guy playing around in your garage. We definitely want you to be able to get the freshest local hops. So we definitely are catered towards whoever wants hops.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that before we were doing this. I mean, I definitely thought about fresh hops, but yeah, you guys aren't even at some sort of volume where you're doing pellets or something or contributing to that.
We have a USDA certified food safe facility where we process our own hops, and we have we make the pellets and we run them through a hammer mill, so we have very consistent pellets. So a pellet you get from us is going to look no different than a pellet you'll get from the Pacific Northwest. But we also do sell fresh off the vine, and upon request, we would sell whole cone dried, but that's typically not the preferred. Whole cone causes kind of a mess in the brewing system. But pellets is everyone's preferred, I think.
I'm glad I asked.
But with the wet hops, you get a really interesting, really more sticky, piney, fresh taste to it than you would from the pellets. I think you have more of the plant matter intact when you brew with that, so it gives you an interesting kind of harvest ale. Yeah.
I'm glad I asked about that because I didn't. Again, like I for as much as that you talk hops, it's always like, what is the hop doing in this beer? My good friend Matt from Massive Beer Reviews has a couple comments. Hops are such a sexy selling point for farms and breweries, and while a lot of people know the basic ins and outs of the flower plant, I really do think a lot of people don't realize how delicate and moody the hops are. Because good can be. It's not a batch to batch thing. Oh, okay. I see what he's saying. Okay. It's a day by day or hour by hour or morning versus afternoon thing. This is your wine. Super fascinating. All right. Question. Is there still a nervousness of, getting right into it, disease, fungus hurting northeastern hop crops like it did back in the day, decimating the New England hop scene, or modern hop farmers have the means to combat that? If so, how does that affect the hop, and does it add a nefarious step like pesticides or the like coming out swinging?
Yep. So downy mildew is an issue that is common in the Northeast. We have more of a humid climate, and mildew can really set itself up into the hops, and then it will get systematic and spread through. To combat that, you need to take care of the lower half of the hop plants and make sure they have proper airflow, because the mildew starts down and moves up. There's sprays and that sort of thing that you can use to treat, and they're very, very mild type sprays. They're not pesticides. They are a fungicide, but many of them are very mild, and that sort of thing. But if you use proper airflow and you actually take care of your plants and monitor, you'll be able to avoid much of that disease. Andrew, our farmer, as soon as he starts seeing mildew and the like, he'll just burn that plant, because we do a lot of flame weeding. So he'll just go through, he'll burn it, because it's better to just burn it, get rid of that, and make sure it doesn't spread.
I never would have thought about burning the hops. It makes perfect sense. We don't want it to spread.
Yep.
I'm curious, you're talking, and I knew about this a little bit, and I don't mind showing my ignorance about this, but proprietary hops, I knew that existed. I guess I didn't think about the other way, like what hops are open. Is it just because like Cascade has always been a hop, or like why? I understand the proprietor side of things, but like why? I guess my question is, why isn't Cascade proprietary, or like how does the non-proprietor thing work?
Okay, well, a lot of the hops that we know today have been developed by universities. So those are open source, So if it's an open source university developed hop, we can grow it. And then oftentimes, that trademark hop will fall out after a certain amount of years, and it's up to the Pacific Northwest to say, okay, we want to spend the money and resources to put this back into our fold of proprietary hops, and oftentimes they'll get released back into the wild, and you can grow those.
Gotcha.
But anything something like a Citra, it costs millions of dollars to develop and breed, and they approach that with certain flavors in mind, and they were crossing all kinds of different hops to get there. So once they develop those and put all those resources in, they want to be able to reap those rewards.
I have I do like farming, and I've read books about farming, all that. I kind of went down that rabbit hole of like Fast Food Nation. Then I read like Omnivore's Dilemma, and then it just kind of led me into a lot of books about farming. So some of that does translate the same to hops, it sounds like, where like if you have seeds, for example, there was that one company, Monsanto or whatever, they have like their seeds, and like, because they put so much time, money into it, of course, they're protective of their seeds. So I guess it makes perfect sense. Same thing with the hops. If a company has put in all this time to develop that specific flavor coming from that hop, they own that. Then the other side of that, the ones that are, just free use, it does. It makes perfect sense. Again, things I didn't think about when I'm drinking a hoppy beer is fascinating to me.
Yeah, a lot of the free use hops are more backbone hops. Chinook or Cascade will be the base, and then a lot of brewers will dry hop with something sexier that's been bred just to have specific aromas that they're looking for.
I've been seeing that with some of the local breweries, especially if they're trying to use local ingredients to some degree, whether, if they're trying to go 100%, then they're not using something like a Citra, but exactly what you're saying, they're going to have the local New York State grown stuff, exactly what we're talking about, and then the dry hop of the sexy, the in fashion, the whatever you want, a new kid on the block kind of a thing. You're definitely seeing that.
And we love those hops as well. We just, unfortunately can't grow them. But as fans of beer and fans of hops, we love the Citra, the Mosaic, the Galaxy.
So and actually speaking of Matt from Acid Beer Reviews, we had done a live stream on his channel with one of the owners of Hop Butcher for the World out of the Chicago area. And he was talking about like visiting the farms and like really getting in depth with the hops. Any of these breweries that you talked about, do they kind of just like, hey guys, you're the farmers, you tell us what you're yielding? Or do you ever have people come and be like, no, I kind of want to see the experience and kind of, get my hands dirty, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, so if we always invite brewers out to the farm. The one thing I've noticed in our area with the smaller breweries, the brewers are so busy, because oftentimes there's one brewer and they have to brew, constantly, that they don't make it out. But a lot of times we'll drop off samples, to kind of show them what we're working with, because at the end of the day, they're taking a chance on us, right? We're not the established hop farm. We're not the status quo, but we're dropping off samples to say, hey, look, this is a quality hop. This is well done. And we think this will complement your beer on the local level. If a brewery wants to go the absolute cheapest route, we'll never be able to compete with price for the Pacific Northwest. That would be like a local farmer who grows lettuce trying to compete with Dole. It's not going to work.
Yeah, you don't have the volume and to charge the price point, the network. So I imagine, how about this? What's been easy and what's been difficult? Like I imagine the local, like breweries that to them local is king. That's easy for you. You're local. They care about local. So is there anything I'm missing? Maybe that's been easy, and then what's some of the stuff that's been hard? And you already talked about it a little bit, but like easy, hard.
Well, hop farming in itself is farming in general. I would say is not easy. There's constant, hurdles that you have to cover. Whether it's pests, there's no rain. There's always something going on, and then sometimes equipment breaks. Sometimes the weather won't cooperate. So there's a lot of hurdles, and then you got to harvest, and you have to harvest quickly. So that's something that is always a challenge for us. We're constantly trying to improve our process. We built a harvester last year out of wood and a few engines and some picking teeth. And we're looking to improve that this year so that we can harvest more efficiently. So it's always a challenge and it's always a battle to improve. But I think that's why we like it. There's a new hurdle every day. Yeah. And if you love hops and you love the beer scene, it's exciting work. It's definitely can be stressful at times, but it's a pretty challenging. It's challenging to do, but it's a labor of love. If Andrew were on and he started to talk about the hops, he lights up like a Christmas tree. He gets so excited and so happy. When I love walking through the field and pulling a hop off and smelling it and saying like, wow, we grew these. So it's a challenging thing. And I think also another thing that's challenging is getting a brewery or a consumer to take the gamble on us. We love to talk about our hops. We love to walk people through, what we have to offer. But at the end of the day, people have to take that gamble, whether they're buying 2 ounces at the homebrew store or 11 pounds to use in their brew. They have to say, okay, we see what these guys are doing, and we trust you. And I think that's something we're always cognizant of. So we work our hardest to get the most quality hops we can in any situation.
Now, being newer, have you had that happen where someone approached you and said, oh, I was talking to such and such brewery or such and such home brewer, they vouched for you, and now, and again, they might start small, but have you started having that word of mouth? I mean, as you keep going, you get more and more word of mouth. Since you said third growing season, right? Third?
Yep.
So now
This is our
you're in
third.
your
Yep.
growing season. You started
Yeah. So
word of mouth?
the word of mouth is starting to kind of catch on. We see it a lot more with the home brewers who bought the hops in the homebrew store. And, the brewers that we've worked with are incredibly happy. And, brewing is a tight-knit community. So I'm sure, they have discussions. So we're definitely we're starting to be more recognized in the area as a quality hop farm. So, we're going to continue to build that good reputation, as we grow.
I would think, I mean, like you said, the close knitness of it. I used to paint houses for a living, and how many times we had people, oh, I saw so and so's house, and I asked them who painted it. That's what made me think. But that's even more tight knit. Now let's couple that with something we talked about. I forget if it was on camera or off camera, the social media presence.
Mm-hmm.
So like, there's a lot of Facebook groups, like local beer groups, local home brewer groups, national ones. You post to Instagram. I know that. I follow you there. Are you guys at all involved with like homebrew clubs or anything like that?
So we post on our Facebook as well. Oftentimes, if you go to a homebrew page on Facebook and it's a group, there's oftentimes strict policies that you can't go in there and sell.
Yeah.
So we kind of steer away from that. But what we do is we target, our target audience is the homebrew community, because, we really want to supply fresh hops locally to the people of our community and to the Northeast in general. So, we target that, going on your show, doing a podcast, we want to get out there and let people know we're here and we have fresh hops. And we do a lot of outreach on Instagram. Sometimes people will have questions on our post, and we'll send them a direct message and try to walk them through. So we really want to be, first and foremost, a high quality hop farm, but secondly, we want to educate people about hops. Everyone who's into craft beer has a really, I think, good understanding of what's going on, different styles, different flavor notes, but I don't think people pay enough attention to the ingredients, whether it be hops or the grain or even water. Like, water is so important to beer that it often gets overlooked.
Yeah. And I try to keep my channel as like apolitical as possible. It's like one of my areas where I don't have to be confronted with politics. But I will say something. I remember years ago in New York, they were talking about should they be able to frack or not. And I remember Omegang Brewery, like, really quickly was like, you can't touch the water supply. Like it's literally our livelihood. People know about exactly what you're saying, that the hops, they're a very malt forward company. Holistically, they have been branching out more with IPAs and stuff, but they're like the water is so key. Yeah, just to kind of give that a little bit of a shout out. Like, yeah, water is huge as well.
Yeah, and people don't think about that.
Yeah. Well, water, I mean, it's like the thing, like New York City bagels are better, like, because of the water. I mean, like, you kind of think water's water, but no, it's not always the case. No, it's so true. It's so true. What's the beer doing for you now that we've kind of let it open up a little bit?
It's just such a clean IPA.
Yeah.
It's a little sweet in the front, and then you just get that nice lingering bitterness, and it's crisp. It's like, this is the kind of beer, if I was out working in the hop farm all day and I was hot and sweaty and I needed a cold beer, this would be a good one to grab, because it is straightforward, it's hoppy, and it's refreshing. So
I'm up to something like, I think I'm up to almost 900 beer reviews. And I kick myself every single time I have a beer that I used to drink before I did the channel, like a beer I drink a lot. Like, doing the channel, I try to drink different stuff. So I have different, like, no one wants to watch me, my 20th review of beer, right? So I try to do different beers. But every time I go back to a classic or one of those beers that I grew up on, I always kick myself like, man, why don't you drink this beer more? And again, this is 8 months old. Like, this should not be, the one I'm drinking should not be as good as it is right now. for an IPA, you got to drink them within a week, right? I don't really believe that, but no one says, age an IPA for 8 months. But the fact that this beer is this good after 8 months is just such a reminder of like, dude, go back. I don't know. Are you familiar with like Ithaca's Flower Power?
Oh yeah. I love Flower Power.
Yeah, like that one. I reviewed they did a variant with maybe Mosaic was added as well, or Galaxy or something. I reviewed that, but I've never reviewed regular Flower Power, and it's like that's criminal. That was the first IPA I ever liked. Like that was, it's just such a. Anyway, we have another question. Let me pull this up. What do you guys think of Dogfish Head and the Sam Adams merger? It's a fair question. I'll go first. Just I'll take the hit. I'm actually speaking of like beers I grew up. I shouldn't say grew up. It makes me sound like I started drinking these when I was like 3. But when I was getting into craft beer, those were 2 huge breweries for me. And like speaking of Ithaca and Ommegang, those were the only 2 local breweries, and they were both. Let's see, Ithaca was 45 minutes from where I lived, and Ommegang was probably like, I don't know, an hour and a half. And those were local breweries back then. Yeah. So, and then Dogfish Head was one of the few you could find on the shelves back then. So like, the Sam Adams, the Dogfish Head were big. I don't drink a ton of Sam Adams, but the Dogfish Head I do keep in the rotation, typically those 18% ridiculous beers. But, when it was my wife's and my first anniversary, and we're like, what should we do? Where should we go? And she's like, let's go to Dogfish Head. I'm like, yeah, let's, like we'll do like I said before, we'll do the whole thing. So, I'm happy for Dogfish Head. They have a bigger footprint now. They made a lot of money.
Sam Calagione did pretty well on that.
Anything to add?
Well, so to your point about the local breweries, I'm spoiled. I grew up next to Trogs. So Trogs was everywhere. So that always really has a special place in my heart as a drinker. I think the merger makes sense for Sam Adams and Dogfish Head. If you look at the beer scene and the changing landscape, Dogfish Head and Sam Adams have gotten so big and so common that the hardcore craft beer fan forgets about them. You're not, it's almost not you're not interested. You're chasing these white whales. And then you have the other end of it where it's, Anheuser-Busch, InBev. They're a Goliath, and it's tough to compete with them if the craft crowd's not really following you. So I think the merger makes sense of 2 of the bigger craft breweries combining and sharing the costs to run such large companies. They're gaining such efficiencies that I think it makes sense. It's definitely not popular in the craft beer scene. Now they're publicly traded. Sam Adams has been publicly traded, and Dogfish Head is lumped in there. But it's definitely something that I think was necessary for both of those breweries to be successful.
I think it helped. Definitely, like from a business point of view, I agree 100%. And I've heard this theory from other people, and it does make sense. You're almost gonna have like the 2 extremes. It feels like with the breweries, like the super local brew pub, or like they do like their 2-can release every week, and you just go and pick it up, or like the ones that are on the shelves, and in the middle, people might be the ones struggling. You combine these 2 big craft breweries into a way bigger one, and they also. The other thing I want to add though is I think in some ways they complement each other. Like Sam Adams can be kind of except for like Utopias, they're kind of known for being super traditional.
Yep.
The Dogfish Head, who's known for like pushing the envelope.
Off-centered ales for off-centered people.
There you go.
That's their slogan.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I freaking love Dogfish Head. Spot on, Kyle. Whenever I dive into classics, I get the same feeling. So many delicious old school beers. We all drink more. Flower Power for the win. Wait, you still haven't reviewed Flower Power? Yeah. Okay, so this is Joe from the Beer Patrol. He's cool. He's in the Buffalo area. He's busting my chops correctly. I was actually thinking, Joe, of doing Flower Power for my 1000th beer review. That's kind of what I was thinking. And then Utopia's Worldwide Stout is awesome. Yes, it is. That beer was so good. Now I want to go back to Trogs, because that was another early brewery that I could get back when I was getting into craft beer. And actually a good friend of mine, it's his birthday today. So Dan, if you watch this, happy birthday. He actually went to school with the Trog brothers, so he like knows
Wow.
us from back in the day. But yeah, he grew up in the Harrisburg area, so actually, by your hop farm. And best brewery tour I've ever been on is Trogs. And I've been on like some really good ones. They're a good example too. Like they do some traditional stuff, but they also, they mess around a little bit. They innovate, which I appreciate. But yeah, like I just remember how thorough. Actually, Sierra Nevada also did something similar. Like, all right, eat the malts,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna like drink the beer that has these malts in it. And they're like, okay, now put your hands in the hops, do this, and smell. And it was just like, again, I'm at the point in my life where I don't want to do a lot of brewery tours because it's a lot of the same, kind of stuff. But those two, and I still always say Trogs is the best tour. Just that level of in-depthness was so appreciated. Yeah. Yeah, big fan of. What was your favorite beer from Trogs?
Well, when I was really starting to get into beer, it was when they were ramping up, but they weren't as popular as they are now, and they weren't as big. And Mad Elf was pretty hard to get. Yeah. So I love Mad Elf. I still love Mad Elf, and I still have that hoarder mentality when it comes to Mad Elf. I'll buy 2 cases. I like to age Mad Elf also, and drink it fresh, and I'll do my own verticals with it. But Mad Elf is still to this day one of my favorite beers, and Trogs is great with it.
Mad Elf. So a friend of mine, he used to go. I love Mad Elf as well. A friend of mine named Pete would go crazy for it, and he had a little bit more disposable income than I did. He would just buy cases of it, and like I got to the point where I knew I didn't need to buy Mad Elf because he was going to have so much he would give me some. But yep. I've aged it. I've done some it's hard to do verticals because it's so high ABV like in one sitting. Mm-hmm. Verticals, I brought it to. I've done like bottle shares where it's like, we're just drinking these Mad Elves I bring because they're so ridiculously high in ABV, but do like 5 years in a row. I remember one time I was at a bar that had a crazy tap list and they had a keg of Naked Elf. And I'm like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I freaked out. It was like the fanboy moment. I'm like, whoa, this beer I love so much. Like I get to try the variant, and like the variant, there's less stuff in it. Like I was so excited to have something with less, but it was really cool to try that beer. Like without it was still really good beer. Yeah. I love Mad Elf. They had a really good their barley wine was a Flying Mouflon or something.
Yeah, Flying Mouflon. That's corked and caged.
Yes, yeah.
Very good.
Barrel aging's been pretty on point.
Yeah, they do Mad Elf Grand Cru, where they'll barrel age a blend of 3 or 4 years of Mad Elf, and then they'll bottle it. They'll cork and cage it, and that's really good if you can get your hands on that.
I did review. I compared that to regular Mad Elf maybe 2 Decembers ago. Yeah, and that was really cool to do and to compare them. Yeah, that again, that's just a good brewery, just cranking out hits, man. Yeah, this is like making me nostalgic, and I'm so mad at myself for not drinking more. See, that would be perfect for a 1,000th beer, you jerk. Sorry, Joe and I know each other very well.
Troganator. I love Troganator.
Yeah, yeah, Troganator. So, oh man, yeah. Oh, okay.
Now I'm totally fanboying out on Trogs.
This is the right company to be doing that though.
It's very common, someone from Harrisburg, to have these feelings about Trogs. Literally, the brewing industry is popping up around the area because of what Trogs did. And
then, so what you're talking about too, early on, before they moved to their Hershey location, like I remember, how much harder it was to get Trogs.
Yeah.
But like when I did that tour, it was at the Hershey facility. But I remember, before that, like we were all big fans of Trogs. And they were, for a smaller facility, even back then, they were cranking it out. When I did that tour, we had Troganator out of the Bright Tank, so that was really cool. And then, like when we went to have lunch, we made sure we ordered that to kind of try like the finished version. And then it was, what was the one they like right off the bottling line? They pulled them out. Hop
Knife?
No. Oh man, hop
back.
Is that what it's called? Hop back?
There's hop back and hop knife.
It was hop back then. Yeah, it was not. I know for a fact it wasn't hop knife. It had to be hop back then. And that was kind of, oh my God. Yeah, just right out there, like, yeah, I literally just got the cap on it. Let's take the cap off and drink a bunch. And yeah. Yeah, well, 100% it was hop back. Yep, 100%.
That's a great one. I love nugget nectar.
Oh my God. Every year. And then
every year, once a year.
Yeah. And then they did, I think they still do it the once a year, that Nimble Giant.
Very good.
I get more excited for the nugget nectar, but yeah.
I had Nimble Giant when it was in their scratch series, and it really just took off, and they're like, okay, we need to turn this into, one of the actual beers that they brew. Their scratch series, if you're at the brewery, is awesome. They're just cranking out experimental beers that they're saying, this is how successful is it, so.
The few I've had have been quite good, but it's so smart. You see a lot of breweries doing this. Yeah, like see what sticks. What do people at the tap room go crazy for and talk about? I always feel the older school breweries get forgotten by a lot of people, even us sometimes, for sure. Trogs, Victory, Southern Tier, Ithaca, Great Lakes. It's so true, and I'm as guilty, if not more, than everyone else.
I think you're going to see people starting to circle back a little bit to those as palate fatigue sets in. There's only so many milkshake IPAs and hazies and imperial stouts and pastry stouts that you can drink before you're like, okay, I need to tone it back. And I think these beers, like this 60-minute, is a great fresh beer to kind of make you remember what made you fall in love with craft beer in the first place.
Yeah, I talk about it in some of my more recent, actually maybe for the last few months. I love hazy New England style IPAs. I love them. They're so fun to drink.
Oh, same.
It's hard to review because it's like, okay, yeah, it has a good mouthfeel. It's got some citrus, like some orange in it. Maybe this one has, maybe this one has some pineapple, depending on the hops they're using. Does it have Galaxy or Mosaic? A little bit berry. But it's almost like getting to the point for me where it's like review by numbers. I'm just like, all right, so this one has Mosaic. Yep, I'm getting that berry thing. I mentioned that. Thanks for watching. I kind of want them to be a little different, or and this is what I've been trying to do to prevent the fatigue is throw in like, oh, I'll do a stout tomorrow, or I'll try to throw in a sour or whatever, just so, because as much as I love to drink them, if you review 8 of those even like one a day, it's just like, oh, it's very similar to the other one, but with 10% different or something. It's just 1 degree different. Oh, Java. So my friend Pete, I was talking about with the Mad Elf, that was the other one he would buy cases of, is Java Head. Oh man.
Yeah, these are all beers that, again, you forget about. I hit my Mad Elf allotment, but I don't have enough of the Java Head. I don't have enough of the Troganator, the Sunshine Pills, and I think you talk about the Sunshine Pills. I love a good Pilsner, and they're just not. Well, they're very difficult to brew in the first place. So I think that's why we see less of them, because it just takes so much time and so much effort and, tank space. But man, I love a good Pilsner. I'd love to see Pilsners really shoot up like we've seen the hazy IPAs.
I mean, that's what it seems like every year when I see those lists of like what's going to be popular next year, people are always like, oh, Pilsners are going to make a big comeback. And I think we've seen some steps. Caleb is saying Southern Tier did pastry stouts. This is maybe the realest thing I've seen all day. Their chocolate creme brulee. Oh man, you're on point with that.
I mean, you think about even Warlock.
Yeah, Warlock's so good. I like Pumpkin, but I tell you what, that little bit of that stout with the pumpkin stuff.
I like, Warlock I've always been a bigger fan of Warlock over Pumpkin.
You know what? I was speaking of being a fanboy, I was a big Pumpkin fanboy. Then I had Warlock, and I was like, you know what? I think I like the stout element of this better. Yeah.
Yeah.
One issue I've had with a lot of older breweries is it's hard to find a lot of their core beers fresh. This is very true. I don't need the beer 7 seconds old. So yeah, it's my own fault. I was at a grocery store, but the one I'm drinking is 8 months old, Joe. So like I'm well aware of that game, my friend. Here's another blast from my past. Victory's Golden Monkey. Yeah.
Golden Monkey sneaks up on you. So
Exactly.
it's like 9 or 10%, and it doesn't taste like that.
No doubt the Blackwater series, yeah, for sure. Caleb, like I said, gets if I had a trophy, he'd get the trophy for realest thing I've read all day. I haven't done the blending. Okay, Joe. Finally, Joe has said something worthwhile. So good job, Joe. I'm just messing. Oh, man. So as we were just talking, I had another question that popped in my head. So we're talking about hops and beer. If you were to go to a local brewery, and maybe you wanted to be hop specific, what would be like the beer you'd like to see most your hops? And I'm not saying like, oh, I want them in like an other half. Well, no, like you go to is it a pale ale? Is it an IPA, a double IPA? Like what kind of thing would you be like? I think, this would showcase my hops the best, or like this hop this year, I think would be really nice in a blank.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see our hops in a Dogfish style IPA where it highlights the hops, because these are our babies. We really work hard and literally till the soil for them to be a high quality product. And I would love to have a beer that highlights that, so I can taste the terroir. One thing I'd really love to do is have a brewery brew with our hops in the West Coast style, and drink a beer with the same hops that was brewed with West Coast hops, and drink them side by side to feel the taste differences and say, okay, this is the differences I see due to the terroir. It would be really cool, for some brewery to say, all right, we're going to have the same recipe and have dueling East Coast versus West Coast, and you can get a flight at the brewery and have both tastes and say, okay, I like this one better. It would be really interesting to see how that goes. And I'd also like to see us used in just different styles, in a stout, in a bitter, in all these wonderful beer styles that are around that, don't get as much attention. I'd love to see us in those, just something really cool. Cause I love bitters, and that's not a very common beer. But, to say, oh, I drank this bitter and my hops are in it, that would be so exciting.
Bitters are a style that if I had to pick, and I've gotten this question before, like if you had to pick a style that's more popular, what would it be? And usually I go something Belgian, but I tell you what, I think bitter, especially for the ABV, maybe it's because like the weather's getting a little bit warmer and stuff, but I do wish bitters were getting a little bit more love. So I appreciate you saying that for sure.
I think people get turned off by the name. I don't think they understand. You see bitter, you're like, well, I don't want that.
It's like we were saying before, like the 60-minute versus the 90-minute. You just assume the 90 is gonna be more bitter, and people who want bitter, they don't want that. You call your beer a style of bitter, yeah. Joe, it only took me 10 comments to say something worthwhile. Yeah, so you're batting, 10%. Good job, Joe. Ooh, Weyerbacher. Josh, man. Sunday morning stout. I mean, I like other Weyerbacher beers, but Sunday morning stout, forget about it.
And they had really one of the trailblazers with the pumpkin.
Yeah.
Their pumpkin beer, that then everybody caught on. But, they really were shelling out some good pumpkin beers, and the Sunday morning stout is great.
The pumpkin beer, because I still like pumpkin beers, but when I was hitting those hard every fall, well, or late summer by the time a lot of them were released. But yeah, Weyerbacher for sure was on that list. The Pumpkin and the Warlock. Actually, Dogfish had pumpkin ale. I'd always make sure I got some of that. Yeah. Weyerbacher, they're somewhat in that realm of Pennsylvania, but not as hyper local as some of the other ones we're talking about.
They're more Philly,
right? Yeah.
I mean, talking about pumpkin, you go back to Trogue's Master of Pumpkins. That beer is so good. I don't know if you've had that one.
It sounds familiar. I've heard of it. I can't remember. Yeah.
That's one that, if you're looking for a throwback this fall, check that out.
All right. Let's Joe say. This is a great point, Victor. Yes, Victor's made a lot of good points. Unlike you, Joe, a lot of people, myself included, just see Cascade or Citron really take into account where the hop in the yeah. And I, again, going back to earlier, I really like the wine comparison. The how much shade it's getting, the soil, that all that stuff does factor. Insanity, oh man. Although I will say this, Josh, I love barley wines. I love Insanity, barrel aged or not. No, wait, is it blasphemy that Insanity is a barrel aged? Anyway, the cinnamon variant they did, I love cinnamon. I did not like that one, but yeah, Insanity from Weyerbacher, fantastic. WAE or Matt from Matt's Beer Reviews, everyone. Joe from the Beer Patrol. I'll still stand by Insanity. Oh, Hearsay. That was a good one from Weyerbacher too. Good bang for your buck. Right on, Josh. Hello, all. What's up, Wesley? How you doing?
Hey, Wesley.
That's funny. That's funny. So we got about 5 minutes left in the hour. Still have good viewership though, but I figure probably an hour is good. So in this last 5 minutes, anything you want to touch upon with what you see in the hop industry, where you guys want to go specifically, anything and everything?
Yeah, I mean, with us, we're just looking to continue growing as a company and continuing to build relationships in the beer industry as a whole. Meeting with people like you and going on podcasts with the Fueled by Hops guys, and getting in with the local breweries and saying, okay, we're growing, we're proud of what we're doing, you're proud of what you're doing, let's be proud together of where we're from. So that's just, we're really trying to work not only to build ourselves as a company, but to also try to build back the hop industry on the East Coast. We used to be the powerhouse, and now, we're restarting, and we have good relationships with all the hop farms in our area. And it's really interesting to see. We'll post something on Instagram, and we've gotten messages from hop growers in Brazil and hop growers in Australia with questions about our equipment or about what we're doing. And it's just really a great community, not unlike the brewing industry, because again, we're trying to grow our industry just as back in the day, people like Sierra Nevada was trying to build craft in itself. So I'm just really looking forward to what the East Coast has to offer over the next few years. We're seeing new farms pop up all the time, and it's our dream to have breweries in Pennsylvania look inward first and stop going to the Pacific Northwest, and to say, anything we can get locally, let's get it.
Yeah. And I'm glad you talked about it, because actually the only question I had that I wasn't sure if you'd want to answer or not, because I was thinking, and you already spoke about it, but because I do think about craft beer is such a weird thing where you're competing, like your brewery is competing with another brewery, but you'll see collaborations. You'll see something like, we talked about this earlier, like the all together, like other half just being like, here's how you brew the kinds of beers that we sell like crazy. Like, here's a recipe for one of them. Basically, here's our secret,
Yeah.
And you see that. And I was going to ask you, but I didn't know how comfortable you'd be. Are there other hop farmers who are like, listen, we're all in this together. Like, we want to build up East Coast, or like you said, like Brazil's like, hey, we're trying to build it up too. Like, what's good. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, if you think about it, you can't start a hop farm overnight.
Yeah.
And there's only so much acreage, and look at the amount of breweries in Pennsylvania, in New York, in Maryland, in New Jersey. Yeah. There's so much to go around that we take the stance where we're not going to try to attack other farms or we're trying to bring everyone up. If we don't grow the variety that you need as a brewer, but there's a variety that you're saying, oh, do you have Comet? We don't grow Comet, but we know growers who do. So, oh, how about you give this guy a call? Yeah. He grows Comet and it's great. So I think, and they would do the same for us. If there's something they don't grow that one of their clients needs, they'll send them our way. And I think that's the best way to do it. I know that there doesn't tend to be, there's overlap in varieties, but if someone's bread and butter is this hop, it's like, all right, we're going to respect you and we're not going to try and step on your toes. We're going to grow what we grow.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of mutual respect among the farmers.
And that's good to hear. It is one of my favorite things about craft beer. And we were talking about this too, like doing that live stream with Fueled by Hops. Like, you just meet good people, I do think the ratio of people I've met through craft beer versus just other outlets of life has a higher percentage of cool people, and it's good to hear that, with the farming as well. A couple other comments. Yeah, you have to try Master. I cannot for life of me remember if I've tried Master Pumpkins. I reviewed it last year during my 10 days of I remember that. 10 days of pumpkin. Saying what's up to Joe. Leave Joe alone. No one likes Joe. Leslie. I'm just kidding. Pizza Boy. Oh yeah, Pizza Boy. Well, they had a good stout to a coffee stout. I think it had like speakers, like stereo speakers on the label.
I think it was it may have been Little Amps. That's a local coffee shop in the area. I don't know off the top of my head, but those two kind of add up to me.
Okay. Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. I've worked in third wave coffee for like 6 years and no one really does. Oh. Yeah, you know what? So I was saying about this on a very local level. Like I had ran, actually, speaking of Dogfish, I had one of those like little Randalls where you can like pour a beer, then put ingredient, adjuncts and whatever. And I had used a local candy shop's cacao nibs. And I posted on Instagram. They like sent me a message like, what? I don't understand like what you're doing here. I'm like, oh, I took a beer that would lend itself to that chocolate taste, and I kind of made it myself. And it just was like I'm like, wait, you don't like actively try to talk to local breweries and be like, do a collab? Like coffee would be a perfect one. A candy place could be perfect. Whereas like, no, like let's do this up. So yeah, that bums me out. I'm sorry, I'm in the cool people category. Wait, I'm sorry, I'm in the cool people category. You're not cool, Joe. I don't understand that at all. Yeah, sunny side up. Thanks, Matt. That's the one I was thinking. Yeah, sunny side. Thanks, Josh. Sunny side up. Yes. Okay. So thank you, the three people that told me the name of the beer. Yes, that one. And I also had the barrel age version, which was nice. Anyway, so yeah, we just went over an hour, Victor. And I just finished my beer, which I should have saved some cheers, but you're better than me. But so right now on the screen it says @linebinds_hop farm. So that's you on Instagram as well.
Instagram, yep. And you could just search us on Facebook, Line Binds Hop Farm. Our website's currently under construction, but it should be up in a couple of weeks. When it's up, you'll be able to find, we'll have hops for sale, to the home brewer. We'll have T-shirts. We have hats. We have hats like this one, where we have a lot of cool stuff to offer, and we'll have a lot of good information on there about hops. About the plants, about what we grow, and also about, the process and getting the hop into the pellet and some of the important things you need to focus on when that happens. There's a lot of things that go into that process, and we'll be there to explain it.
That's awesome, Victor. I'm really glad you had this idea. We did a beer I love. I was able to, and I'm being honest, like, and I did a mystery beer not too long ago where I didn't know what the beer was, and it ended up being a Kolsch style beer. And I admitted, I'm like, I don't know much about Kolsch's. So like my tasting notes, I don't know if what I was saying is true of that style, because I don't drink a lot of them. So I don't have a problem admitting when I don't know something. I learned a lot today. So like I really sincerely, like Victor, like I learned a lot, and I really do appreciate it. I hope other people watching obviously enjoyed this and maybe learned something. And yeah, it's kind of cool. Like we know Mosaic kicks off a little bit of a berry taste, but like let's learn more about hops and how they're produced and all that kind of stuff. So this was really awesome, Victor. Thank you so much. So check them out on Instagram. Again, it's linebinds_hop farm. As he said, their website's under construction. They're on Facebook, and yeah, really rad, Victor. I'll fake cheers you, okay, man?
Cheers, Kyle. Thanks a lot.
Thanks everyone for watching too.